Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Kelsey Derringer, and I am the Professional Development Coordinator for BirdBrain Technologies. So that means that I get to work with teachers all over the world who are doing cool things with creative robotics. And sometimes I get to teach coding, sometimes I get to teach other things with coding, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But it's not just me here in this Zoom meeting. We also have our director and producer, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Kelsey. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm looking forward to answering some of the questions that will be coming in from Facebook.
That's right. So Matt is monitoring our Facebook Live video. So if you are joining us live on Facebook, give us a shout out. Say, hey, this is so-and-so from such and such. I have a question, or just want to say, hey, whatever you're feeling. If you are watching us live on Facebook, we would love to hear from you. But it's also not just me and not just Matt. We have a whole slew of teachers who are joining us for Teacher Talks today. Do you guys all want to wave hello? Hello. We've got teachers joining us from all over the country, and I'm really excited to start talking about the big idea today is cross-curricular teaching. So trying to use creative robotics as a bridge between computer science and blank. So yesterday we did a session where we bridged the divide between computer science and Shakespeare with creative robotics. So I want to open it up to everybody who's here at Teacher Talks first. Does anybody want to share a project that you personally taught or worked on where you did computer science through something else, through math or social studies or some other project? I know we've got a lot of great teachers and experts here. Does anybody want to raise their hand and tell us something that you were working on with creative robotics? Project you've done?
I'll go.
Yeah, go for it. Is it Venus?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, this is Venus. So I did a robotics camp with a bunch of a mixed students from 3rd grade through 7th grade. And what we learned about was building a robot like Matt. This Matt looks much more cooler. But kids were very creative with it. So we learned a lot about angles. Me as a student, when I was looking at or when I was learning angles, this used to be, it was not very visual, but through the medium of teaching or building the robot, it was very easy for me to tell them that, how an angle works and, an obtuse angle or an acute angle. So that was a lot of fun.
That's great. So you guys worked on this Littlebot project here. I'll bring it real close to the camera.
That is correct.
One of the projects on our website here, and this is an example for a different class that we did. So they were working on learning angles by figuring out the angle that the head needed to tilt up and down and back and forth. So this was not a worksheet, right? This was not labeling angles on a piece of paper with a pencil. This was a really practical application of what does 90 degrees mean? How far is 30 degrees? If you go more than 30 degrees, do you know what happens? The head spoiler alert, right? So like you have to get some practical knowledge of angles to make a project like this. But this might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but it sounds like you guys had a really good time making a Littlebot project like this.
Yes, we did.
Very cool. Very cool. And Eileen, I know you've been working on some really cool computer science and other projects as well with a Finch. Do you want to share a little bit about those? You're muted. You got to unmute.
Unmute myself. Yes, we tried to make it so Finch robots could function as measuring devices for PE activities like an NFL combine. So I was able to make it so a Finch robot could like track when you reach the finish line, when you run like a 40-yard dash. I've been trying to figure out how to make it measure height, but we're having issues with G-forces measuring height if you have the Finch strapped to you. So it's kind of fun combining PE with STEM sort of fields in computer science.
What has been like is there something about that process of designing, using the Finch as a measurement tool to measure things in PE, physical education, so like how fast you were? Has there been anything surprising or extra fun for you or your students during that process?
The Finch is more accurate. Like the kids like being faster with the Finch, and because the Finch is absolutely, you know, we're human beings, so when they reach the finish line, there's like a couple milliseconds where we're like, in between we stop the stopwatch. So the Finch was always faster because it was a real-time sort of thing.
That's really cool to note that it's like you were using the robots to give them better times because it was more accurate, because you took the human error out of the system. That's really cool. So our other teachers who are here, just with the two folks that have shared so far, Venus and Eileen, do you guys have questions for them about where they started in their design process, hiccups that they came up against, joys that they experienced in the classroom? I want to open it up to you folks as well. How about for you, Venus? Were there particular like hitches that you came up against, or challenges that you came up against, or joys that you and your students had while working on your Littlebot characters?
The biggest joy that I find when my students are working on a project is what they're building. So what we do, and this is what I like about the Hummingbird Kit, is that you give them a concept, you give them of what we are trying to build, and what they put on it is exactly their idea. The biggest joy that I'd seen in the classes, like all of I gave them a baseline that this is how the bot needs to look like. But when the end result came, some of them had made a 9 cat. They're already fascinated with that character. So they came up with things from their creativity, and to bring that in action was, the sweetest thing when you see that smile and the glow on their face that, hey, it's moving, and adding sensors to it was, I think, the thrilling part of the class. And on the other hand, the challenges were, of course, to get there. Patience is a virtue, not only as an adult, as a child also, they, constantly confront that issue. So being patient and to cruise through, of course, the issues are going to come up. If your angle is too wide, the robot's head is going to fall off. So those were the challenges that they had to. But, once one team had a complete project, it was very motivating for them to see there is an end to this tunnel.
Yeah. So in both Eileen and Venus's examples, and I want to, again, open this up to the whole group, two things I want to pick up on. The first is there was this element of students accomplishing a goal that they were interested in and that they had some choice in. So in Eileen's, it was, I want to be faster, and I want it to be more accurate so that I can be faster, right? So like it was something that they wanted to accomplish that this robot or this robot system was helping them to do. And in Venus's activity, they had the ability to make this character their own. They had the ability to make this a Nyan cat, or when I made one into Harry Potter because I literally can't help myself. So they had an element of student choice. So as a question to the group, how do you incorporate student choice and voice in your computer science and robotics activities? How do you give them choices about what they are going to accomplish, or how they're going to do it, or what it's going to look like? How do you do that? Anybody want to offer a solution that you use in your classroom?
At least with my classes, I survey everyone in the beginning. And one of the options of the survey is, what are you interested in? What do you expect from this class? What would you like to see have happen? Or just listen, they may not enjoy an activity and you're like, well, what would you rather be doing? How can I make this activity less stressful? So that's always really powerful stuff, because when you actually make accommodations for that, they're like, oh, this is great,
When they feel that they're being listened to, that really
yes, absolutely.
I'd love to ask. Oh yeah, go ahead. Is that Erin? Mm-hmm.
No, it's Melissa.
Oh, thanks.
Late. I'm a little late. I thought it was at 2. So this is all new to me. I've only worked with the Microbits. I haven't worked with any of the Hummingbird stuff, and I want to get into it. I teach 7th grade writing in 5 through 8 GT classes. I'm also the GT coordinator for the school district. But what grades do you all work with? I'm sorry if you already said it, I was late. So, I'd want to introduce the Hummingbird along with, since I already have the Microbits. So Any advice, any suggestions on how to get started with this?
Maybe just to that grade spectrum, can everybody hold up the number of the lowest grade that you work with? So like K, 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the lowest grade you work with? Okay, so we've got some high school. We'll kind of take a look there. And then what's the highest grade that you work with? What are the oldest kids that you work with? Too many. More than 10. So there's a wide spectrum here. It looks like Tanya works all the way down with second graders, all the way up through seniors in high school. So, I mean, I think we recommend the Hummingbird for 4th grade through 12th grade. The new Finch 2 is a K through 12th grade tool. But does anyone have any advice? Did anyone else experience what Melissa did, where you came, your entry point was, I've got microbits and I want to expand this with the Hummingbird? Or does anybody, is that what you did? Was it Edie? Yeah, do you want to unmute, Edie? Tell us how you got into microbits and hummingbirds.
Well, last year, I started with the introduction lesson that's on your website.
The Waggle?
Yes. And I'm a K through 6 computer science teacher at my school. My middle schoolers, which are classified as 5th and 6th graders at our school, they were the ones that did that introductory lesson. And I'm the one that's on your website, actually, because we combined the bees and made the beehive.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to pull that up and show that off. We're going to pull that up in just a second. Okay.
So, but to address Melissa, I started with the microbits as well. So okay. We worked with those first, and then we definitely used the videos available on the website as well. But the bee waggle dance was wonderful in many ways. First of all, the National Geographic video that introduces how the bees communicate. But after that, the students took off from there how they wanted to learn about it. So the beehive kind of evolved from the students, but the website is extremely supportive with a place to start and to work through using the duo kit, the Microbit and the Hummingbird. Yeah. And we just had a lot of fun with it. The other thing I wanted to share was, as soon as those craft materials came out, I was surprised by some of the middle schoolers that jumped into the ways that they could make their bees, and then the collaborative piece of when we had to put that together as one piece. Mm-hmm. It was an amazing experience, and it was my first experience with the hummingbirds. So I'm ready to keep going.
Well, I'm really glad that the Bee Waggle made that easy. Let us, just for a minute, we're going to spotlight ourselves and just show you. This is Edie's class. So we're going to play this video. So she made the Bee Waggle project, which is a little bee that wiggles back and forth. And you can see this is the 5th period hive. Like this video, Edie, I am in love with it for so many reasons, because it communicates so much. Like, it communicates that you did this with different periods. It communicates a sense of collaboration between the groups. You know that there were probably like 20 kids in that class. So, okay, there's what, 6 bees on there? And I love the rainbow one in the middle. It's just, I think it's on a cell phone. I don't know. Like, it communicates student choice, student voice. It communicates collaboration. It communicates that this can really take one class period. And to our overall point for today of like, how can you connect this to other topics? Like, I've heard of teachers connecting that Bee Waggle dance lesson with a lesson about the big guiding question is, where have all the bees gone? Or what can we do in our community to promote honeybee health? Or why are bees important? Or if they're really young, like, what are bees? You know, like, you can take that in so many different directions. But on our website, there's a lesson plan that goes with that. There's a video, and then there's Edie's wonderful class examples to that video there. So it's really nice to hear, Edie, that the materials that we very thoughtfully and lovingly researched and practiced and put together and put on the website are working so well for you, coming in from this perspective of like, I've got microbits, where do I go next with that? That feels really great. Thank you. And Melissa, it seemed like you had a follow-up question there as well.
Well, you know, how many should I mean, I have the opportunity to purchase some, so a class set one per, I mean, do the children work?
We have different class set sizes. So like we recommend anywhere from like 2 to 5 students working together on a kit.
On a kit.
There we go. So here's a kit. And we recommend like 2 to 5 kids working together with your Hummingbird. Here's your Microbit and this little case. Yep. Eileen has a class set that she just bought. Just got it today. So, but a kit like this would be like 2 to 5 students. If it's going to be a pretty simple project like the Waggle, maybe like 2 students. If it's going to be something like Robot Shakespeare, or if it's going to be like Robot Petting Zoo, something that requires some design, that's my limiting factor. And if it's going to require a lot of design and a lot of building and a lot of engineering, more minds can be better for that. Also,
Right.
if it was like after school programs where attendance is going to be spotty, that's when I'd put 5 kids in a group. But ideally, Sam just commented in Zoom, for him 2 to 3 students is ideal, and I agree. That would be the ideal group size if you can afford that many kids, you know.
Right.
So
Thank you.
well, let me bridge really quick and show you guys what we did yesterday, because I want to try to turn this conversation a little bit towards literacy and about teaching literacy. So can I just get a show of hands from all the folks here? How many of you guys teach some kind of literacy in your job? Either like, do you work with kids and do you do reading activities? Do you work with librarians and try to do that? Okay, so just a few here. I know that we work with a lot of librarians who their primary job is like books, right? Reading, literacy activities. But then I actually, where I met Ida at TCEA, there was a lot of librarians at that conference when I was in Dallas a couple years ago. And I cannot tell you how many librarians a couple years ago came up to my booth and they saw my little cardboard robots that were poetry. I had some poetry robots out and they said, oh my gosh, is this a makerspace? They told me that my library has to be a makerspace next year. And I don't know what that is, but they told me to do it. Is this? Is this that? And I was just like, oh, it's okay. Come here, sit down. We're going to talk about it. It's great. A makerspace can be so many different things, but like, I just felt for them so hard because they didn't necessarily have a choice in that. They were just told like, hey, you're doing this now. Don't know what it is? Too bad. Figure it out. Like, ugh, what a tough position to be put in. Oops. But let me show you one example of how hummingbirds and hummingbird projects can connect to literacy. So here is, and you get to see a little bit of our back wall there. Here is our Robot Shakespeare scene. This is from Romeo and Juliet. This is Act 3, Scene 1. If I go to gallery view here, anybody know what happens in Act 3, Scene 1? Does anyone remember what this scene is from Romeo and Juliet? I know I'm like reaching way back in the brain space. We've got an R, a T, and an M. They seem upset. Anybody remember what happens in this scene? Well, I'll summarize it for you here. So in this scene, Mercutio and Tybalt fight. Spoiler alert, Mercutio dies. And then Romeo and Tybalt fight. So what we did in this scene, what we did yesterday, is we pre-programmed a hummingbird, and I'm going to go to this view so that you can see. Here's our hummingbird in the back. So this is from the front, and here I am at the back. So I've got a little split screen here. And as I push the A and the B buttons, when I push A, that makes Tybalt move. When I push B, that makes Mercutio move. And when I push A and B, that's Romeo. And when I shake the thing, they fight. And they move around each other and they fight on this like little thing here. So I've got 3 different inputs that I'm using to make them fight. And while they're doing that, I can also make them wiggle as they go there. And so when we taught this yesterday, we were talking about this scene and we were talking about like the fight. So most of the students who participated yesterday had never read Romeo and Juliet. I asked them, I was like, how do you think it turns out? And they were like, probably well. I was like, oh, maybe no, it doesn't. Doesn't work out for really anybody. They were very surprised to learn that. I think they thought it was a rom-com. It's not a rom-com. So we talked a little bit about the scene, And then what I had them do is I had them use Microbit Classroom to program this robot to do something different. So let me show you guys, and I'd love it if the teachers here on Zoom, if you guys want to participate, let me share some joining details with you. I'm going to resize something real quick. There we go. Come on, you. Behave. There we go. All right, so to join Microbit Classroom, I'll put this information up here just real briefly, and we'll kind of see how many people can join if you guys want to. I guess you could join if you wanted to. If you, we'll copy this information down and put it in the chat real quick. So if you guys want to join the Microbit Classroom, this one is left over from yesterday, and you can actually see how many students we had joining. We had all of these students join our Microbit Classroom, and they were all programming this this thing here. So this project, and so they joined Microbit Classroom, and then what we could do is we could go in and look at the code that they were building. So I sent them the example code of exactly like this works right now. I sent that to them. And then that was their like template to work from. I find in Microbit Classroom, it's really helpful to send them code that works. And then from there, they could kind of mess with it. But so I think somebody just joined. Who just joined? Ah, Melissa just joined. Welcome. Melissa's in Microbit Classroom. Way to go. Quickest one of the bunch, Melissa.
Well, I was in the class yesterday, so I had a little head start.
I'm there. But so we could look at all of the students' code as they were working on it. And when they were done, they'd raise their hand and say, hey, Miss Kelsey, can you put my code on the robot? And so we would. So we just put the joining info in the chat for Zoom. So if you guys want to try that, you can. And I just want to take a look at some of the students' code that they built. So if I looked in here, AK was there yesterday. So here's some of the code that AK built. This was one of the students yesterday. Divya was here yesterday. So Divya might have built some code. I know Constance built some code. They added some things in. They tried out weird stuff with the code. The way that I built this project, I'll go here. The way that I built this project is actually, I think, really important with Microbit Classroom. It's in a way that it can't be broken with code. So these characters can move all the way around 0 to 180 degrees. They can move 0 to 180 degrees. It won't break the project. If I move this motor, it won't break the project. Same with Romeo. He might turn all the way upside down and look stupid, but it won't break it. So when you're working with Microbit Classroom, when you're wanting to do some remote coding stuff, that is a really important thing to remember is build a project that they can't accidentally break by putting a big angle in there or something. I think that's important to think about. But then the kids coded it, and when they said they were ready for their code, I'd plug in my Hummingbird here, and I'd download some of their code, and we'd try it out and see how it looked. And so this was a really cool activity for us to do, because the students could then see when I went back to this view, I was like, all right, talk me through it. What's going to happen when I press A? What did you change here? And it was so fascinating to watch the students say, well, I increased the amount of wait time for Tybalt so that when Tybalt wiggles, it's going to be a little bit slower. And to just hear them speak, to hear them talk with authority about the things that they changed in the code and what they thought it was going to do. Sometimes they just said, I don't know, let's see what it does, which is a perfectly acceptable answer, you know. But it was really cool to see what they thought of and what they would do. So if I check in really quick and just see who all has joined Microbit Classroom, I can go back up here to the dashboard. I can see there's quite a few people here now. So what I can do, I can share some student code. I'll share the last code that was put on this robot. I'm going to share code with students. So I'm going to send this to everybody. And now, everybody who's here, I shared my student code. Kelsey, the student, was in there. And so I shared that code with everybody. So now, if we go to gallery view, give us a nod or a thumbs up if you received my code on Microbit Classroom. Did you guys get it? Yeah. So now you guys have that code to work from. And as you can probably tell right now, you can work on that independently. So that's one of the things I love about Microbit Classroom is that everybody can be working on something independently. And when you're ready, you let me know and we put it on the robot, you know. But you know, as far as a project like Robot Shakespeare goes, this was a really fun one because they got to just like, what we did when we were teaching this yesterday is we pulled up the dialogue that happens between Romeo, Mercutio, and Tybalt, and Matt and I read it out in a very dramatic reading. We're so good, Matt.
Thank you.
Who were you? Were you Romeo? Who were
I
you?
was Romeo and Mercutio.
Yeah, he was Romeo and Mercutio. So he was the Montagues, and I was the fiery Prince of Cats, Tybalt the Capulet. But so as we would read the lines, it'd be like, all right, so oh, thou foul Prince of Cats, have at thee, boy, or whatever it was. And so when we read the lines, we would make them wiggle like that. And when they fought, I shook the thing and they fought, right? But the kids, when they reprogrammed it, they like made this move way more, where they made them, instead of being like wiggle, 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 they were like, rah, 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 rah. And it was very dramatic. It was very fun. So that was a really fun way to get them to animate the characters who were in this scene. And I like to, when I teach it, I like to get it working for them, but it could be better. You know, and I kind of like to leave some low-hanging fruit of like, make them move more, make them move differently. Like, how can you do that differently? So it gave them a chance to play with that, which was really fun. Let me open it up to questions. Do you guys have questions about this project, about Microbit Classroom? We have another project to show you too, but I want to see if anybody else has anything they want to ask or want to know or want to comment about a project like this.
I do.
Yeah, Melissa.
Okay, so I'm logged in, and it showed when you shared it with everybody, it was started, you know, it was loading, trying to download, but nothing's come up yet. So on my end, what am I supposed to be doing?
Are you trying to download code onto your Microbit?
I wanted to see the code that you sent us, and it kept spinning. Well, does it work on an iPad?
Microbit Classroom works okay on iPads. It's a little bumpy. We've run into some bumps with it.
Okay.
It works best on Chromebooks and laptops, but I believe it does work with an iPad. And what's up, Matt?
Yeah, technically it works on an iPad, but the interface was actually designed for desktop, so it's going to be it'll be a little awkward to use.
Yep.
Okay.
But we're resending you that code now, Melissa.
I got it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I got it, but it hasn't come up yet. It's still front download. Yeah.
That was one of the bumps that we ran into with someone in the past, is that it just kept loading on an iPad for some reason. So,
okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right. This is Venus. I have a quick question. So, at Vice Computing Academy, and we have a lot of team members from Vice too on this call. We have been extensively using Snap. Have not used as much of the Microbit. Based on the usage from the participants on this call, it seems that you guys are very fluent with Microbit. Do you find one better than the other? Can you share some inputs on that?
How do people think that Snap compares to MakeCode, for those of you who have used both programming languages?
So, what is your name? From mine?
Venus.
Venus, I'm sorry. Is Snap the one that also works with the drones, with the code drones?
Yes. So
Okay.
I've used Snap, not as much MakeCode.
Okay.
So wanted to see what your feedback is.
And Aaron, you had some feedback about that. Do you want to talk about that, and then we'll go to
Yeah, I've used Snap previously. This year was the first year I used MakeCode in a class. I think the interface is more user-friendly for younger students in MakeCode. It just seems a little bit more clean cut in terms of just the way it looks. And I think kids are a little bit more adaptable to doing more with it. I found with Snap, with my younger students, meaning 6th graders, 7th graders, it seemed, not that it was more complex, but I think when they look at it, the way it appears seems more complex than what it actually is. So I found that to be just an observation. But in terms of performance, they both performed as they should.
Yeah, the graphic design of Snap is a little like older, like it kind of looks like an older Scratch versus make code. The graphic design of it is a little snappier, you know. But I'll go to Sam. What's your feedback about make code versus snap and what those are like? Make sure to unmute yourself too.
Hey, yeah, I definitely agree with Aaron that make code seemed like it was designed for a broader audience. So older and younger students. And and that Snap seems more like an older, and more version of Scratch, more blocks that they're not as familiar with, where they can kind of get lost in the blocks. Just to add another element of, bird blocks, which, I've been using on the iPad to create projects, I felt has been very intuitive and easy to use. So if you have iPads and you want to use your Hummingbird kits, that's also a great option.
I agree with you. Bird blocks has been a really good tool to use, especially when we're using iPads. For the younger ones, the connectivity and everything is so streamlined. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
with
The other thing I noticed about make code that I wanted to try was it also gives the option to use block-based code or JavaScript. And I had some students that were interested in more text-based code. So that was a good option for me to transition and for them to see sort of that correlation of what block-based versus the script looks like.
Nice. Thanks.
And Venus, for my older students in the high school level, we like Snap because it's constantly changing. Actually, they're going to come out with version 6 any minute now. You can create complex or even abstract structures like sort of arrays and matrices, and you can create customized bricks, which are a requirement for AP. I'm actually a novice to the whole Microbit thing, but I ran out through a tropical storm in order to pick up my brand spanking new kit today, because apparently through Microbit and Make Code, you can virtually have students code robots. And so I'll have these robots in my house, and hopefully my students can online virtually through Zoom code them.
Yeah.
Another note that I'll make about bird blocks here for Melissa or any other users that are primarily Microbit based. Bird blocks works with, now I have an updated version, it works with the Hummingbird Duo, which is the older version of Hummingbird, works with Hummingbird Bit, which is the newer version, and it works with just microbits as well. So if you wanted to use bird blocks to program your microbit, there's all of these microbit blocks where you can do all of the microbit things. Now I don't have a microbit connected, so the blocks are gray and they don't work right now. But you could also use, you can use Snap, Make Code, and bird blocks, all three of those block-based coding languages with Hummingbirds. And actually, can you use Snap with Microbit just by itself? Yeah, okay. So you can use any of those with your Hummingbird and or with your Microbit. It really just depends on what device you have to program on. And we've actually made a really helpful thing on our website. If you're just on the basic Bird Brain Technologies website, just on the basic Bird Brain Technologies website, if you go to Get Started, here's where you can choose what robot you have. I'm going to deselect things so you can see everything. All right, I've got a Hummingbird Bit. And what do you have in your classroom? Well, if you have iPads, you'd select iPad, and it'll tell you bird blocks is the best answer for you. If you've got Chromebooks, you could use Make Code or you could use Snap. If you've got a Mac computer, you could use Make Code, Snap, Python, or Java. So on our website, when you go to that Get Started button, it helps you kind of filter out what does this, what does that, etc. And we also wanted to give you guys an experience of, so Microbit Classroom, the way that works is you guys build code at home. When you're ready, you let me know. I plug in my robot, I download your code, and then it continues to run that code that you built at home, controlling our robot here in the studio for as long as we can, as long as you want to, until we put a new code on there. So the interaction of trying to teach robotics remotely with Microbit Classroom is, I, as the teacher, am like the portal, right? I say whose stuff goes on the robot, and it all goes through me. Oh, I just shook the thing, so now they're fighting. But also, to your question about Snap, Especially if you're trying to do remote robotics, if you've got robots and your students don't, let us show you what Snap looks like by showing you another Robot Shakespeare project that we also did yesterday.
Right.
Go over to our studio here. Actually, can you not share for just a second? Thanks. So I'm going to go over to our studio here. So we created this game, and I'll make that go away. So we created a game, and Matt, if you could show what the puppets look like over there for just a second. So there's a sword that the kids can control with their arrow keys, and then there's these two puppets. There's so you, the camera, are Mercutio. Here's Tybalt. Tybalt's trying to get you, right? And then Mercutio, if I use the arrow keys, you as Mercutio, you're trying to stab Tybalt, right? But throw it into the mix. Here's Romeo. Derp-a-derp, there's Romeo, and you can't stab Romeo, okay? Because there's that bit where he like, why came you between us, Romeo? Oh, it's hurt under your arm. So Romeo gets in between Tybalt and Mercutio in this scene, and it's a problem. And so there's derpy Romeo trying to get in the middle of stuff. And if you accidentally hit him, then you only get 3 Romeo hits until you're out, right? And the other thing that was cute about this was that in order to get them to start the game, like in order to get them to start fighting Tybalt, they had to say this line, "Come, sir, you're passado," which is like, that's the line that Mercutio says to make the fight start. So we want to give one of you guys a chance to play this game so you can see what that interaction is like. So also this was a total hoot yesterday. Like, it was so funny watching the kids, like, wherever they were, be like, "Come, sir, you're passado," and they're like, oh no, Romeo, get out of the way. It was so cute. So the requirements for you to play is you just have to be on a laptop, so a Mac or a Windows or a desktop, just not a Chromebook and not an iPad. Who wants to play? We want to have somebody play. You want to play Venus?
Yes.
So what we're going to do, Venus, Matt is going to share his screen.
Okay.
And he's going to then give you remote control of his screen. So I'll let him talk you through that.
All right. So I've just shared my screen with you. So all you need to do is click your screen.
Okay.
There you go. And now you actually have control.
There you go.
Your mouse will control my mouse.
Okay.
And up arrow will control my up arrow.
So hit your right and left and up arrow keys and see what that does to the sword. Yeah. So Venus is doing this right now, everybody. If you can see us, you can see Venus. All right, Venus. So we're going to get Tybalt out there.
Okay.
But he's not going to fight you yet. He doesn't fight you until you say your line. So say your line, Venus.
Come, sir, you're passado.
So here he comes. He's going to fight you. You're supposed to get him. Parry, parry, thrust. And oh no, here comes Romeo. Oh no, don't stab me. Oh no. Oh, please, Mercutio. Oh no. Please, Mercutio, don't fight. Please, not me. Don't hit me. Oh, that was pretty good.
That is so funny.
Oh, he's dying.
Put up your sword. Oh, you got Tybalt real good there. That was a good Tybalt swipe.
That is really good test of reflexes.
Yeah. You got one more Romeo hit until you're done. Just don't hit him. Don't hit him. Get Tybalt though. Come on, Tybalt. Give him a poke.
There you go.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Oh, terrible. Oh, hate. Oh, spite.
That was hilarious. That was fun.
Let's give Venus a round of applause, guys. Woo! So, as you guys can see, the difference between like Microbit and Snap, they're both block-based. You know, they're both super friendly. But the difference in interaction when you're doing remote coding is with Microbit Classroom, everybody can be programming at the same time and working on their own thing, but you can only download one at a time, which can actually be kind of great. And the types of projects you would want to create with that are the kinds of projects that can't be broken with an angle that's too big or too small or whatever. Versus our project over here, with this one, with our sword, when you're doing, this was through Zoom, doing the remote coding feature of Zoom. So we gave you remote control of Matt the robot's computer. There we go. And you were controlling it actively, and you could have gone in there and changed the code, but we find that with this one, since only one student can participate at a time, for this one, it's kind of better to give them like code that really truly works. And if they want to change something, they can, you know, but it give them code that really works, and then let them kind of use that to interact with something fun like that. So there was the only remote part, the only robotic part of that was one motor. The rest of that was all done with cardboard puppets and wire and stuff like that. But just those two different styles of interaction can be both used really effectively. Does anybody have any questions about, thank you. Oh, so here's what, I'll show you what that robot looks like. Here we go. Here's what that robot looks like. It is one motor. We made a little thing that fits right underneath our camera. Zoop, zoop, zoop. That's what that robot looks like. It's barely even a robot, but it was pretty effective at communicating that you are Mercutio and like you gotta fight, you know. But do you guys have questions about Snap or remote control with Zoom, etc.?
I have a question for connectivity. When you're connecting the Microbit versus when you're connecting through BlueSnap, one goes with Bluetooth. So and you use the dongle. Is that still valid?
Yep. When we were doing this one with Snap, we were using the Bluebird connector to program wirelessly remotely through Bluetooth.
Okay. And how about when you're using Microbit with?
And when using Microbit Classroom, that's a physical connection that we would plug in with a USB cord.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Eileen, you had some too.
Yeah, my question was, when you say one student at a time can do the code, does that mean, is that a Zoom limitation or is that a Snap limitation?
That's a Zoom limitation in that if we already have some code built to go with a robot, we can only give remote control to one person at a time through Zoom.
Okay, okay.
And it has to be on a laptop. It can't be a Chromebook or an iPad. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can't do multiple tabs. Ah, got it. Thank you.
Well, you could do multiple tabs, but only one person. We can only give remote control to one person at a time.
Okay. Okay.
You could, and Tanya asked, is it really easy to give a user access in Zoom? Yeah, it's as easy as sharing your screen. So there's like, you share your screen, and then up at the top, it said there's a little thing of a mouse. So you guys can try this out on Zoom when you're the host of something. You can share your screen, and then up at the top, it says remote. And so you can choose whoever's in the meeting, who's on a laptop, or who's on a computer, I should say, that you want to give remote control to. It's super, super easy. Versus, just to throw something else in the mix, NetsBlocks, which you guys should check out how to use NetsBlocks. It's basically like the interaction that the students have is just like Snap, but multiple students could be programming something at once. They can only control it one at a time, but they could all pull up the basic program like we did in Microbit Classroom, and they could be editing that on their own time, and one at a time can connect to the robot, but they could pre-build something and connect that way. So that's called NetsBlocks. And you can check out, you can both program with NetsBlocks yourself and also learn how to set it up for yourself. You can do that all here on our Robotics at Home page. So you can check that out there. Did other people have questions about these projects or about connecting? Yeah, Divya.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like when you shared the code with all of us on microbit.org, so can we do the same even by using Snap?
The way that I shared code with you on, it's called, the thing that we used is called Microbit Classroom. And that's a Microbit only thing. It's a make code. I think you can do it with make code or with Python. I don't know if it's Python or MicroPython. But that one's is a make code. They made. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got that.
Tanya also asked if that could be done, if this like remote Zoom thing could be done on Google Meets. I don't know, honestly. We use Zoom primarily and almost exclusively because we're getting good at it. Honestly, because that was what was asked of us first, and we got good at that first. Right. I don't know if Google Meets has that remote control function. Do you know?
I do not know yet. I should know by now because that is not the first time somebody's asked me that question. I just have not read.
The reason being is a lot of districts ban Zoom, and we only can use Google Meet. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this going.
Yeah.
Microbit Classroom absolutely works on Google Meets.
Okay.
Microbit Classroom is super versatile. Like you can do it with a Chromebook, you can do it with a laptop, you know, and it works on all the different platforms. It would even be a really great tool to use in the physical classroom. When you get back to the classroom, you can send code, you can share code, you can see all your students' code. At the end of a Google Classroom session, you can download a file with all of the code that your students made so that you can like save it to look at it later. Microbit Classroom is a super powerful tool. It's still in beta right now, but it's completely functional. We've been using it 3 and 4 times a week for a few weeks now, and it's at one point we got like 68 kids to be on the same Google Classroom. Wow. It's technically only been approved for like 30 kids from what we heard in the presentation we went to, but we got 68 people in one Microbit Classroom coding. It was pretty wild, but it worked. And Becky had something too. Yeah, Becky.
Yeah, I just wonder, I haven't used the classroom part yet. I just wondered, like when you shared the code and I accepted it, if I had been working on something on my own, does it automatically save what I was working on, or is it erased?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I tend to the way I use it is I only share code when I want to sort of like have them, like if we were working on whiteboards, when I want them to like clear it and work on something new. Okay. So I'll share example code at the beginning. And then if we start working on a new project, I'll share it, you know, there. But yeah, in Microbit Classroom, if you share code with a student, it wipes their existing code away, which could be frustrating.
But you can choose which students you're sharing it to.
Okay.
You
share it to just some students. So if if I want to share Becky's code with Deepika, and excuse me if I mispronounced your name, but if you want to share code with one person, we could do that. We could just share it with one person.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you can see we can like X out of everybody we don't want to share code with, you know. So yeah. I did want to show you guys a couple other, since our big idea today was literacy, I just wanted to kind of plant an idea in your head as well, which is I'd love for, if you ever want to head to Twitter, and you can search my Twitter handle is @KelseyConnects, and you can do this with BirdBrain as well. I don't know if they retweet all of the things that I post, but most of them. So you could search @KelseyConnects and @BirdBrainTech, and then #RobotPoetry. This is such a great project to do with literature. I think it's even a stronger project to do with literacy and literature even than Robot Shakespeare. So what you have your students do, and in the case of all my tweets, these are from professional developments that I've done, so these are teachers' projects, but you have them pick a poem, and I open it up and I say any poem, and then they pick a poem and they have to create a robot that brings that poem to life. So this one was Sunflower by William Blake. So that's this project here. And this one was Tiger, tiger burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Also William Blake, funny enough. This one was Rain, Rain, Go Away. How cute is this?
Like that's whiskey.
So I'll be full screen so you can actually see some of these videos. So here's Rain, Rain, Go Away. So you can see the rain swirling around up above it. Oops, loading. And there's the lightning in the background. And when you cover it up, that's when the lightning happens, I think. So you can see the little yellow light when they cover up the light. So I wanted to show a really great example. I loved this one so much. This one was a Shel Silverstein one, and it was about bad thoughts. And so they had bad thoughts inside of the head, and then you could take out the bad thoughts or put them back in. And I just thought that was brilliant. This one was, there was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
Don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die.
So this fly was just rolling around, and her mouth was opening and closing until you get close to it. And then when you get close to it, she bites.
There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed the fly.
That was one that was made by
die.
folks at a workshop that I did, and then I traveled with it, and then it required some major surgery after I traveled with it, so that was me fixing it in my hotel room. But this one was a beautiful one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the poem Mother to Son by Langston Hughes.
And places with no carpet on the floor, bare, but all the time.
So I had them read it out loud, but there's this whole staircase theme in it. And so they made this glass staircase with some imagery. And so they covered everything in aluminum foil, and there's these broken fence posts or something in it, and the lights are going up, and the sun is at the bottom and the mother's at the top. And they really put so much thought into how to bring that imagery to life. And all of this was inspired, by the way, by Sue Mellon, a teacher, and she did this activity with her gifted and talented students. And to just share a little bit about her experience, on the fifth day of the unit, we have a show, and each group has to play their poetry diorama for their classmates. But before they play their diorama, they have to explain their project to the class and tell how their finished project relates to the meaning or message of the assigned poem. So here's these boys, they're 7th grade boys, they're like poking each other, right? I'm just gonna tell them to calm down, we're doing our thing now. Okay, so we gave the all quiet signal, and Joe began their presentation. The first words out of his mouth were, "The filament leaving the spider is like feelings leaving the soul." I almost fell over because on day 1 of the unit, none of these boys could tell me what filament was, and no one had a clue that there was even a metaphor in this poem. As any teacher teaching today, I was wondering if this poem was found on Shmoop or SparkNotes, so I asked Joe where this idea came from, and he said, "It just popped in my head." Repetitive readings of a poem can help us all understand more fully the poem's message. A hands-on making activity, like creating a robotic diorama, gives middle school students an opportunity for natural repetition of a poem, or a Shakespeare scene, or a scene from How to Kill a Mockingbird, etc. The more time spent reading, arguing, designing, building, programming, and creating resulted in the more time that the boys understood their assigned poem. So I love robot poetry as a unit, and I really love bringing things to life with creative robotics as a way to teach literacy, because it's a really authentic way to engage with a primary text over and over and over again, because where should they stand? How should they move? What happens next? What should this look like? What's the texture here? Is there a color that this brings to mind? Those questions don't need to be on a study guide, because the kids are going to argue about it by making it, right? So I just want to just emphasize the idea of creative robotics being a tool of composition in a literacy classroom, or a really authentic way for students to communicate their ideas. So I'm going to give people some information about where they can find out more about BirdBrain, Hummingbird, etc. But if any of the teachers here on Zoom have any questions, please feel free to stick around. And also, if we can go to gallery view really quick, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for your questions, your insights, your experience. So we can all give ourselves a round of applause. You guys were wonderful today. Thank you so much. Okay, so just to give people some information about where they can learn more about BirdBrain Technologies, if you have something you've done or any questions that you have that you'd like to ask us, you can reach out to us on social media at BirdBrain Tech, #Hummingbird Kit. And as you saw, all of those robot poetry examples, at BirdBrain Tech always retweets my stuff when I'm out teaching. So definitely, this would be a great place to find some inspiration, just going back through the backlogs and finding inspiration for great projects. Or if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to email us, info@birdbraintechnologies.com, whether those are questions about ordering, questions about professional development. These things we're doing on Fridays are free, but if you'd like to have some private, personalized professional development for your school, your team, things like that, you can reach out to us about that, about curriculum integration, about designing a whole program, whatever you guys need help with, we're here for that. And then finally, I pointed this out earlier, but also if you haven't yet, be sure to visit our Robotics at Home page. This has so many resources for doing robotics and teaching robotics from wherever you are sheltering, including some great project outlines, ways to learn about ordering hummingbirds, either for yourself or for yourself and your students. We can ship directly to folks' home, which is great. And also all of our live upcoming webinars. We try to do 2 a week, one that's more student focused, where we encourage students to be on the Zoom call and teachers to watch live from Facebook, although teachers are absolutely welcome on those as well. And then one more, and in that one we do a project like Robot Shakespeare, or next week we're doing mini golf. Super excited about that. So tune in next week for mini golf. Send your students our way. And then our second one, we do a teacher talk like this, where we crowdsource ideas and ask each other questions and figure out best practices of teaching robotics and coding in the classroom and from home. You can find all of that information on our Robotics at Home page. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. Thank you so much to our teachers who joined here on Zoom. And I can't wait to see you next week. So have a great weekend, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see what you make on social media. On Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can tag @BirdBrainTech or #HummingbirdKit, or you can even tag me. If you have any questions, be sure to email us, info@birdbraintechnologies.com. We can answer questions about purchasing, about learning, about teaching, and about professional development. If you haven't been there yet, be sure to visit our Robotics at Home page. There you can purchase a kit for yourself, learn how to use it, and even join one of our upcoming webinars. Until we see you in class, thanks for watching from everyone at BirdBrain Technologies.